network programming exercises. So here I'm going to give, or we are having a network programming lab manual, and in that manual we are going to discuss 19 experiments and the theory behind, or the programming languages, how that can be done, that I am going to show you. Here network programming laboratory manual, that means at the end of the and after learning this course you should be able to write programs for client server communication, then shared memory programs, then you should be able to create networks in NS2, etc. That means a number of objectives are there. Initially we are going to understand what are the features of Linux and what are the commands we are going to use as far as Linux is concerned for network programming. We are actually doing all these exercises in Linux operating system. Okay, now these are the list of exercises that is given in your syllabus, and you can go through that. Initially today in this point in this lecture I'm going to show you the first two experiments, getting started with basics of network configuration files and networking commands in Linux, to familiarize and understand the use and functioning of system codes used for operating system and network programming in Linux. Okay, this is experiment number 1. This is getting started with basics of Linux configuration files and network commands in Linux. The important network configuration files in Linux operating system are root etc/hosts. For doing all these type of exercises, I will show you how. This is here in this case I am using Ubuntu, and Ubuntu you have a terminal here, and when you click on that, that will be displayed. That means the terminal is open, you can drag it to some other position so that it be easy to read the other part. See here, when you are pressing that terminal, it will show you a terminal, and in this terminal that will be in a particular working directory, and if you want to see the present working directory, you type pwd, which is present working directory. That means in home, that means in the root, that means root of the file system, there is a subdirectory called home, and in that you have another subdirectory which is Shibu, my name, and that will be displayed. So this is the home directory of this user, and now we are going to discuss some Linux commands. For example, if you have ls, that means it is for listing the contents of the current directory. That means here these are all different files and see here this engineers.odt, examples.odt, everything is given in white colors, and some are given in green, and green type files means those are executable files, and this videos, workplace, etc., those are given in blue letters. That means there are another subdirectories. Okay, so if you want to switch to some other directory, so for example if you want to switch to that videos, then cd, that is change directory videos. Okay, then it will go to that videos, and suppose now if you are typing present working directory, that means in home Shibu videos. So if you want to return back to your immediate parent, what you have to do is cd dot dot, that means cd space dot dot. Okay, that means if you type pwd, that means that is in your home directory. Okay, if you want to flush the contents of this clear, okay, that means present working directory ls And if you want to make a new directory, you can use mkdir. Okay, etc. A number of commands are there. So at this point in time, we are focusing on networking commands which are used for networking. So here the first file we are going to discuss is root etc/host. This file is used to resolve host names on small networks with no DNS server. DNS means domain naming service. That means for every domain name, for example, suppose that www.google.com, that's the domain name. That domain name is .com, and if you have a DNS server, then if you connect to a DNS server, then it will give you the IP address of that DNS or that, for example, www.google.com. There is a specific IP address associated with that. If you want to get that IP address, then you have to contact a DNS server. Suppose that if there are no DNS servers, then definitely this root etc/host file, that file contains the details. Here root etc/host means when you are typing, that means here when I am executing this gedit root etc/host, it will show you 127.0.0.1. that is localhost. Means if I am having, that means if I want to connect to the system itself, that means local loopback address, I want to my system which is localhost, that is having the IP address 127.0.0.1, and another IP address also is associated with that 127.0.1.1. okay, see, if you want to see the contents of this root etc/host, what you can do is, some editor you have to use gedit root etc/host. okay, so that is displaying. See, these are the contents: 127.0.1 which is localhost, 127.1.1 which is again the computer name of this computer, name of this computer is Shibu Travelmate P243M. okay, and after that some other information is also there. So you are not, you don't bother about all those things. Anyway, this root etc is having the host file, and that host file contains information about host names if it is not connected to a DNS server. Now the second one is resolv.conf. This configuration file contains IP addresses of DNS servers and the search domain. That means if this system is connected to the outside world, then this resolv.conf, that file contains the IP addresses of DNS servers. That means initially if you want to resolve a particular URL, for example www.google.com, initially that will contact host file, and if it is not able to get that address from there, it is contacting this resolv.conf to get the addresses of DNS servers, and it will be having the addresses of DNS servers, and then after that it will contact that DNS server. And anyway, if that DNS server is not capable of giving the IP address corresponding to that URL, then that means there is a DNS hierarchy there, then immediately above that its parent DNS is there. So it's kind of a hierarchical structure is there. So in your networking class you might have studied all these things, and here at this point in time we are focusing on resolv.conf file. So if you want to see that, you simply, what you have to do is gedit root etc resolv.conf. resolv.conf. Okay, resolv.conf, that means this is having name server 127.0.1. that means here this is not connected to the outside world through Ethernet, and it is not having any information about that. That's at this point in time you should remember, for resolving the names, resolving the URLs, you should contact a DNS server, and the address of the DNS server is then resolv.conf. Okay. Now after that, root etc network slash interfaces. Interfaces means this system is connected to the outside world through many interfaces. For example, here there is an Ethernet connector. Ethernet, that means in your lab an Ethernet cable is connected to your PC, and your laptop is connected to the outside world through a wireless network. So these are two communication medium. That means one is wireless and the other is wired connection. Wired connection is Ethernet connection, and wireless connection is our wireless mode, etc. So for this, that means these are the interfaces with which you can communicate to the outside world. So if you want to see the contents of, if you want to see those interfaces, you have to browse this, or you have to edit this file root etc network slash interfaces. This network file specifies routing and host information for all network interfaces. Network interfaces, in as far as this PC is concerned, is having two outside world connection. One is through wired cable and other is wireless. It contains directives that are global specific. For example, if networking is equal to yes, network activities activates the device. For example, you can here in this case, here if you type this, here enable networking and disable networking is there. So if you are ticking this, that means network is enabled, and if I am ticking this, that means now that will be disabled, that means disconnected. If you want to enable that again, what you have to do is here enable networking, then automatically it will be enabled. Okay, and after that, this is one of the important Linux networking commands, which is ifconfig. When you are typing this ifconfig, what will happen? To show you how. ifconfig. Okay, when you are typing this ifconfig, here you can see ENP4S0F2, which is the Ethernet cable. That means some Ethernet, there is a IF configuration, means these are this command. The explanation is this command gives the configuration of all interfaces in the system. It can be run with an interface name to get the details of the interface. This gives IP address, subnet mask, etc., etc. That means if you want to connect to the outside world, you need either a wireless connection or a wired connection. Now you have three interfaces, which is ENB4S0F2, which is the Ethernet wired connection, and WLP9S0. WLP9S0 is the wireless connection. And this yellow means that is a local loop by connection. Same. The IP address. Now this is connected to the outside world through wireless. My system is connected to the outside world through wireless, and see here WLP9S0, which is the Ethernet protocol which is using, and the IP address given as 198.168.1.41, and broadcast address, subnet mask, everything is there. Here see, RX packets means received packets, and TX means transmitted packets. So for this day only, that means today I have used 2.3 MB of reception and 348.5 KB of transmission. That is called TX means transmission and RX means reception. So WLP 9S0 is the wireless interface, and ENP4S0F2 is the wired interface. Thus wired interface is not using now, that's why there is no address. Received bytes and transmitted bits are zeros. Okay. And low means that is a local loopback. That means if you want to send to the current system itself, we can make use of this 127.0.1. That is the local loopback address, and that's all about ifconfig. Now this is netstat information. That means netstat means this command gives the network status configuration. That means I'll show you netstat netstat. If you are pressing netstat, what will happen? These are all, this is the network current details, current status of this. So no, there is no need to bother about the details of all these things. Now we are not using that now, and now we are going to discuss ping. Ping means, suppose that you are connected to some network and you are going to check whether the connection is working, whether that connectivity is there. So for that, suppose that I am going to, this is connected to internet, and suppose that www.google.com, that's actually the URL, and for that URL there is an IP address. So that system is residing in somewhere else. I don't know where it is, but whether that is connecting, that means whether that is connected to this system, we can check that using ping. For that, ping pong ball, you know, but that means when you, if you throw it and if you hit the target and it will return back, it will return. So that is a ping pong ball. Just like that, if you are sending these packets to some system, and if it is connected to that system, then once it reaches there, it will come back, it will return. So suppose that you are transmitting 10 packets, and upon reaching that, it will return, and once it returns, then you can calculate the number of packets received. That means you are sending 10 packets and it is waiting for some time, and if it is receiving that 10 packets back, that means that connection is okay. Okay, I'll show you. Ping, say www.google.com. Actually this www.google.com, that's an IP address. That resolving that IP address, that means this name to IP address conversion is done by DNS server. Okay, that means here this is connected, that means 64 bytes from the system ICME. That means once it is connected, this showing like this, and I'm pressing Ctrl C, that means 16 packets transmitted. See, 16 packets transmitted, 16 received. So 0% packet loss. That means that is connected. Okay. So if you know the IP address of that www.google.com, you have to type that ping that IP address. And now suppose that if you want to know whether the Ethernet card for this system is working, for that you have to type ping 127.0.0.1. so it's also working. Okay, it's also working when you are conversing and also 4 packets transmitted, 4 packets received. Okay, so that's all about ping. Next is 127.0.1 ping google.com. Okay, so that's all about the first experiment, and you have to go through all those things. And at this point in time, I'm concluding the experiment for first experiment, and you have to do it as an exercise. You have to open the terminal in Ubuntu or in Linux, and you have to type all these commands, and you should be familiar with the terminal. Okay, thank you.